Okay, hi all, welcome to part B of class 10 for map painting in digital environments. So we're now going to look at the project shot. I've spent a bit more time on it, working out the map paintings, the projections, and you can see a bit of kind of flickering light. I mean, it's not quite finished, it needs a bit more finessing, but it's good enough to kind of go through and there's a lot I kind of did between the last lesson and now. And I'll just talk about anything I changed, I guess, from a technical point of view as well. So please forgive me if I forget to go over anything. I'll endeavour to cover everything I said I would. So yeah, I'll just dive straight into it. Now you can see from, the last class we talked about the ground. I changed kind of the texture in the ground. I wasn't happy with the scale of it, and just the kind of the way it was working down here. I redid this whole right building here, mainly because the projection once you get to the end here wasn't holding up, because you can see, you start, I'm going to, it's the first projection shot. This was the first priming projection, so you can see we're a fair way away from here, and that might be great from first camera angle or first frame, but once you get up to here at the end of the shot, there was far too much kind of texture stretching and just wasn't working. So I basically just created a new projection for the right building itself, which is kind of there, so it's much more towards the end of the shot as the primary projection, and then there's just a little patch just to cover all those kind of nooks and crannies. There's nothing else in particular I changed as far as, I guess, anything compared to how the concept was, but from a technical point of view I did split it up into render layers. Obviously with the map painting toolkit you can, I guess you don't necessarily need to work in render layers, because you can have, all your, I guess your poles and your background all in one shot, but it does become a lot more complicated. And it can, also from a rendering point of view, if you split it up into layers, you can then obviously, you don't need to re-render every shot, because the renders did start to take a while, especially using kind of the dilated patches and stuff. So basically just, split it up into kind of, in the new right building, backgrounds, the ground, sky plane, some fogs, some alphas. The poles I did end up doing separately at the end, mainly because I did some lights on, lights off stuff, and I'd render the shadows of the poles separately. And then kind of the little iron railing. Now, obviously, some of the things I guess I'd like to do this shot to finesse it, is just little things like set dressing, like these kind of iron railings, and things like nuke are great now, because obviously, there's a lot of this shot you could do in nuke, but you could just export the camera and just add little details in nuke, and obviously not have to keep rendering stuff from 3D. Now, what else did I change? So obviously this main building here changes a bit. Kind of just kept building it up, and then, added bricks and just, stuff. There's still little bits and pieces here that could do with some more texturing, could do a bit of kind of finessing of light, and that's kind of something I wanted to talk about, actually. I can use an example on the right building shot. So basically, I didn't change, I guess, the texture of this building too much. Really just rebuilt it from a different angle. But I started to kind of brush in, I guess, what I called before painting with light. But so basically, I've got one of my passes, the diffuse shading direct, and I've basically duped it from the bottom, and it's on a color dodge layer. So using your dodge tool with highlights, this is just a great way to add a bit of kind of life. And there's actually a lot of ways to do this. It's good, much less opacity. And you just kind of brush in where you'd expect to see highlights, being caught from the light. You can be quite rough with this, and also using a brush, like a textured brush. It's good too. Yeah. You can see it just kind of adds a lot to it. Makes it look a bit more three-dimensional. Now, I didn't get a chance to do it so much with this, and there are ways to do it in post too, so you wouldn't necessarily do it, but it would, to really, really kind of make this sing, you'd do another layer on the various mats where you would just go through and kind of brighten up, the edges, anywhere that flashing light would catch. And save that out. Especially big edges, Save that out as a separate mat, and then actually comp it together so that when the light flickers, it brightens up here, and all the little edges. That'd be really nice, especially on things like this building. It's just really dead at the moment. And that you can see where you've got a little bit of life in it. It really helps. So that's definitely something, all these, it's just the final little tweaks that really you can make it really sing. Another thing I did actually is I rendered off an alpha of just the windows. So I basically selected the windows and assigned a black surface shader, and then inverted that selection and made that building white. So that basically, I can show you the pass in After Effects, but that just, you can see I've got a really subtle kind of movement in the glass. You can see it there. But basically it's just a shot of another shot of a building or something, and just so it looks like there's something behind camera. Again, just add a bit of life. It's like just nice little subtle things really help. I mean, this building here particularly needs a bit more. I think I could get away with that. Maybe that, there's a bit of glass there. It could probably have another reflection. But yeah, I mean, you can see there's a lot of fog in there, and yeah, so I'll just jump into After Effects and go through and show you kind of how I comped it all together. Okay, so here's the shot in After Effects. It's basically, all my passes are set up. I'll just go through and turn everything on and off. So you can see them all. So, yeah, sky, background, sort of shadowing, some of my mid buildings. It's a little fix I did on the back edges. Right building, ground, and that's right, I did a separate kind of foreground area. Same reason again as the right building, just wasn't quite happy with how it was projecting from that angle. Now you can see it all kind of looks a bit messy. Obviously, there's no depth to it or anything. So then you've got poles. Pole shadows, which are rendered off separately. Okay, and then just jump straight into things like the depth. So the depth I just rendered straight from Maya, just as camera depth part. Well, And I'm just trying to show you on 100%. Yeah, so that's how that looks. And as I said earlier, yeah, just, it's great to use for fog, as well as using for depth of field, which I did do just ever so subtly because the shot's quite wide, so obviously you wouldn't get that much. But yeah, just as a fog pass, really, really helps when I sell the shot. Now I've kind of done, quite a heavy treatment of fog on this shot. It was always intended to be quite dark and gloomy, so. Yeah, you could probably go less, and still work quite well. And then I've basically just got some kind of adjustments, really, some color corrections, etc. Now, when I set this up, I basically did kind of each render layer, I guess, as a pre-comp. But I wanted to show you just a few of those because that's basically where I did